about secession, if the two parties went into couples therapy, I think the therapist would be saying, maybe you guys shouldn't be together.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to America Who Hurt You. I'm your host, Sarah Jones, and this is the pod where we find the brightest spots we can during this dark time in America's history. Off mic, you might know me from the characters I play. Sometimes they do pop in here, sometimes they don't. But if you miss hearing them, like last season, please let us know in the comments. For now, our guest, who I am super excited to hear from today, is my friend, the brilliant writer, producer, and host of the podcast Reclaiming, Monica Lewinsky. Talk about somebody who has been through and seen it all. I mean, Monica is the embodiment of redefining your narrative during the country's worst moments. And we actually first met at the TED conference years ago when we were both speaking. And I am so happy to sit with her now to just discuss how she's become this beacon of inspiration to millions and how we can all become more resilient ourselves. But before we get into it, whether you are listening to this or watching it on YouTube, which I highly recommend, if you love this episode, please share it, follow us on all the socials at America Who Hurt You, and you can subscribe to our Substack. Yes, I am Sarah Jones. All right, now here is the incredible Monica Lewinsky.
Hi.
Hi, my friend. I'm so happy to see you. I was saying to Katie, you don't understand. This isn't just an interview. Like, I get to see my friend.
I know.
Whenever I'm out in the wild and I get to see you, it's always like, oh, Monica's here. It's going to be okay.
I know. It's like a person with the same language. It's so funny because one of the things, I think we all say this, but about Instagram is that I feel like I've seen people, you know, and so it becomes one of those things where I'm looking at you going, oh, I think I actually haven't seen you in real life in quite a while.
It's been
which
quite
is bonkers.
a while. For people who have, for whatever reason, not yet listened to Reclaiming, which is Monica's amazing podcast, it has been one of the most, like, it's free therapy. It really is. And this show,
thanks, Sarah.
It's really true, Monica, that, I mean, there are episodes with some of my favorite people, but I think for anyone, if people don't know Jamila Jamil, hearing you and, you know, other people who are thinking about this moment through the lens that you uniquely have. And I just want to say the history that I feel with you. I just rewatched your TED Talk, you know, which is how we met. And I remember sitting next to you in the makeup chair and your energy, there was this palpable reclaiming that was happening then.
I was going to say nervousness, but, you know, if it came across as reclaiming, all the better. We were the same session, right? Was it Justice something?
Justice was in there. Justice was in there somehow.
We were in not only just the same 2015 cohort, but we were the same session. And we had that. Did you go first and sort of, I don't know, but I just remember your energy of that session anchored everybody in such an important way. And then we got to become like, you know, buddies from that. And after our little TED brunches and dinners.
At the time, I felt like we were the TED kids table in a certain way. And then now we're we're grown-ups. And
I know. You had spoken there before, right? In Vancouver, because it is such, you know, everybody knows the Red Circle TED Talks, right? But it is so intimidating to walk into that conference. And, you know, I remember my first day there and I didn't have anybody. You only get somebody the day of your session, like to have a person.
That's right.
So, you know, walking in and you're like, oh, okay, there's Al Gore. Ha 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 ha. Okay. You know, like, all right, this won't be awkward for me in any way.
Oh, Monica.
Yeah.
Okay. So that just got really real for me because, you know, you were like, I was like, yeah, Al Gore. And then I'm like, oh, like it's different when you've dealt with just a little bit of a bumpy, you know, personal experience directly connected to these people. And I was thinking about how you were one of the first people it was around the same time as Brene Brown, which I think you lifted out. I know you did in your talk, how she talks about how shame and empathy kind of can't coexist, or right. Empathy is going to obliterate shame. Empathy cancels shame. This moment that we're in, having been along for your journey for a long time now, we could talk about, a phoenix rising from the ashes. We could talk about all of these things. But the way you center yourself in being of service to other people, that's a really big thing for me right now, Monica, because the country is hurting, is steeped in so many kinds of shame and humiliation culture, and a lack of the compassion that you talked about. I'm kind of, I kind of know what you see because I listen and watch and read your Vanity Fair pieces. And I mean, the Epstein files, there's so much going on right now that I feel like you've been uniquely positioned to comment on. So I almost just want to sit back, not talk, and listen to you for as long.
Oh my gosh. No. I think that it is, I find myself situated in these two very different ways, where there's this one part of me that feels as if I experience it as everybody else in the country who is on one side of the aisle, I guess, right? Who has certain views, who roots for humanity.
I was going to say, I don't feel like it's an aisle. I feel like the aisle is humanity at this point. That's your choice, either for humanity or not. But yes, please.
No. And so I sit from this place of someone who cares about people, who cares about our country, who cares about the world, the planet. I mean, all the things, right? And then I also sit from this vantage point of having had such a unique perspective at such a young age from my own experiences of really coming to understand, and it took me such a long time to understand the many layers of power and how power works, and to see how people interact with power is interesting too. And so I think that I have also seen, not only from my experiences in my early 20s of what it meant to be, on the wrong end of the government, and there are probably some bad jokes we could make there, Sarah. We'll leave it for today.
First of all, I'm like, I know who was on the wrong end of what, and it wasn't you. You were not the wrong end of anything.
No,
all the wrong ends were over there.
I could see not only experiences there, I could see the long tail of trauma mixed with power and what it meant to be, to sort of be trying to live in the wake of other very powerful people. And then I saw when that started to change, and it was very interesting for me around, I had begun reclaiming my own narrative a few years before Me Too started.
Right. And fast forward to now, as we're all seeing kind of this unraveling, so much of what you've talked about around bully. I mean, we have a bully in chief, right? So from that perspective, having dealt with the just grotesque power imbalance and shaming and blaming culture that you dealt with so early, I just feel like perseverance, that's your bag.
What's so interesting is, and because I just had therapy this morning, I'm reminded of it, that my therapist has said to me so many times, that my ability to persevere saved me in so many different ways and was a, superpower in my youth. But sometimes that's problematic as an adult in other scenarios.
Wait, say more about that, because I was like, yes, our ability to persevere. Yeah.
Well, I think that it is. I think that there, sometimes it is the healthiest thing and the best thing to give up on a situation or a person, or an old trait, even. How long do we stay wedded to a narrative, right? To our own narrative that has served us well in the past, that we're only still here breathing because of that behavior. And there are times where it comes to a point where you go, okay, actually, you have to let something go. Right. So,
okay. So you're making me think about survival traits, right? And in listening to you, even in the work that you've made as a TV producer and like these stories of, people needing grace, like literally everybody makes mistakes, in your youth, and what put you in this, kind of, as you say, made you patient zero for cyberbullying and, that nightmare that now so many people think of as normal. It's just a part of our lives that people get canceled or dragged or whatever publicly. And I remember thinking, she didn't do anything wrong. She didn't do anything I haven't done. She didn't do,
Well, I did, I think that I think that I made some very bad choices. And my choices impacted a lot of people and many families. And I think do I see things the same way as I did back then? No. Do I understand why the adults around me were saying, this is, you're a kid? But I think we all remember from our early 20s that there's an aspect where you think you know fucking everything. You think you are an adult. Like, oh, I waited till I was 21. I am an adult now. I know all the things. And we don't, we don't. And so I think that is part of it. Part of what happens. But
I swear I'm not pushing. Maybe we differ on this, but I wonder what you think about the idea that our brains, what do they say? It's now 28. You haven't even developed and so 100%. I'm not saying you didn't make mistakes, but I guess what I'm saying is the ways that we assign moral failure to really children, kids, very young people who are dealing with the moral problems of middle-aged and elderly people. I think about how that globalizes to our whole country right now. You know what I mean? And anyway, so my pushback is just saying what I hear is that you were probably in some survival traits. When if a boss looked my way, I was like, and low key in our whole culture, know. So,
well, and I think that there is, that's what is complicated about the patriarchal structure too, is that all of us, I think both men and women, that we are looking to authority, which is often male authority. And we're looking to that authority for acceptance, for being chosen, for the ways that we see ourselves. We come to try to define ourselves for ourselves by how we're seen out in the world. And especially that's what you're doing as a young person, moving from some sort of educational institution to a professional institution. Right. And, it's just when it becomes the matriarchy, eventually, one of these days.
Do you have a time frame on that? Because
I know.
I don't know.
I'm one of those people who, maybe it's Pollyanna-ish, I really believe everybody deserves safety and they deserve dignity. Maybe we can't all have all the same nice things that we all want or the same opportunities, but there should be this baseline here on planet Earth in the third dimension, a base level of, a version of food on the table, a version of a roof over your head, a version of dignity for yourself that you feel about yourself, and that is reflected to you in the culture.
I mean, growing up with the idea of the American dream, I never thought basics like food on the table and a roof over our heads would sound so aspirational. But after this break, Monica shares more about her unique perspective on this moment in America, including some ideas for amendments to the Constitution. Welcome back. We are talking to Monica Lewinsky about what actions we can take to get us through these times, from the biggest things to the smallest.
I'm not sure I'll ever fully understand how we got this way, why we're this way. But I think what's hard is we're the only ones who can change it. And none of us likes to hear it. You know, I don't like to hear it either, because I'm like, I'd rather stick my head in the sand sometimes, you know, or I'm afraid to be vocal about certain things. But I do feel like I'm someone who believes every small thing matters, you know? So I think it matters when you show dignity to the person on the street who's asking you for money. You know, it matters to help people find dignity when they're the ones cleaning the public bathroom. Thanks for doing such a great job. Cost you nothing. To ask the manager to come over to tell them that you just had great service. You know, it's just like all of those little tiny things. I believe they matter. You know, it's hard to hold on to that in today's world, but I don't know. You think that too, right, Sarah?
Yeah,
I mean,
you're sparking all. So some of what I'm thinking about is dignity, this word dignity, right? And like what you're talking about, basic human flourishing. There's so much abundance on this planet if we will just stop destroying it, right? There's enough for everyone to have actually a nice, you know, if you ever travel to countries like Sweden or Germany where like your supermarket checker is like, well, I have to leave now to go to my country home. And you're like, you have a country home and 6 weeks of vacation and you're a supermarket checker. Right. What we decide, right? Our government, and I don't think it's an accident that we're now in a moment where we're supposed to find $1 trillion for war and we're going to take it from basic social services to pay for that. For me, it's all so connected, this idea of who we are as individuals and how we've gotten here as a country, the humiliation culture, the shame as commodity. Right.
I think the thing I tell myself to try to keep going. And I think that is, again, that survival trait, right? Like I will find the hope. I will jump from hope leap pad to hope leap pad, no matter how, unbelievable it is, right? I think about, I had a very dear friend who passed away unexpectedly. We joke, her husband and son joke about it. So I can make this joke that it was like, she passed a few days before Trump won. And we're always like, oh no, there was no way she was going to be able to handle that, so, but, she would talk about just, the mapping, like that things need to come to the surface. Yes. Kat would say things need to come to the surface in order to be able to affect change. And one of the things that's been interesting to me about the internet and in particular social media is it is a map. It is a map. I think that we had been lulled into a sense of moving forward with President Obama's election of like, okay, it's a new day in America, right? It's a new dawn. We are post race. We are all these different things. Right. And it's like, okay, we're seeing on a macro scale what you and I know, because we do a lot of personal work. What we know in a personal sense is it's spiral. It's a spiral. You go up and you have to go down to get to the next layer up. And that's what I just keep hoping. But, I don't fucking know, man. I don't fucking know. Because then, in my head right now, I'm going, oh yeah, but they turned back Roe. So
anything yes, Roe. Can women even vote? I'm heading to do a show, in a couple of days in Kansas. I'm like, if in the past I've had a trans person as my assistant, they wouldn't be able to drive. We have turned backward in so many ways. Do you see, it's almost like, and to take it to the personal work, I have to plug away. It is daily.
Oh, it's so hard. It's so, I mean, sometimes I have a few people in my life who are, some who think they're self-aware and they're not. So those kind of provide some comic relief, but then there are also the people who are just, they don't work on themselves and they don't care. And they have other qualities that still draw me to them, why they're still in my life. But sometimes I'm just like, man, that must be really nice to just not be in constant dialogue with your inner self in a way that you're just sort of moving through the world and processing, right?
Yes.
I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yes. In fact, as you said that, again, what I hear is like, there are people who there's not a lot of self-awareness. And I'm not in their head. Maybe that's their version of being self-aware,
Right.
but I remember learning about a feelings wheel, and it was like, what do you feel? And I grew up in a family where there was like mad, sad, happy. There weren't like, oh, I'm conflicted, I'm disappointed.
Well, that's also Gen X. That's also Gen X, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like anxiety was not a thing. It was like, oh, my tummy hurts. I'm excited. My tummy hurts. I have a test today. It was like, I'm afraid this girl's not going to like my outfit, or whatever that is. Like we didn't even have language for so much of what our generation experienced. Right?
It's true. And the generations before us had even less. And so in some way, like, I feel like it's the best of times and the worst of times. Do you see that because you do anti-bullying work and
I think again, it's we all want change to happen so much faster. We want it to be a light switch moment. And I think that we do see, we're living in it's a tricky time. It's a tricky time with technology. I think that going back to dignity, I wish that more of the AI conversation was about if this is going to happen and people are going to lose their livelihoods, there's the question of, all right, well, Andrew Yang was talking about UBI, his whole $1,000 a month, whatever his exact proposal was. He was talking about UBI, that universal basic income was something we were going to need to embrace at some point in this country. And I think the conversation with AI is accelerating that. But I just think about how will people have purpose and how will people have dignity? And that is... that's something, I don't know. I think I got us off track.
No, and maybe this is me and my, particular neurospices that I bring to the mix, but I see the connection with everything, like a universal basic income or a life stipend. Like these things exist in other societies. This is not impossible to imagine. We have enough money. If Pete Hegseth can have, what was it, $6 million worth of lobster? I mean, clearly the wealth is there.
Well, and we do it, sorry to interrupt, but we do it in different business ways. I mean, that's what a subsidy is, right? Like
we're giving welfare to companies. We're giving welfare to companies. We just don't like to call it welfare because we want to think of that as women and people of color, so you're so right. What if you could wave a wand and change any policy? I know there are so many, but you know what I mean? Like,
I think, wow, if I could change anything, it would probably, I think it would probably have to be healthcare at this point, because if you think about one of the biggest fears that comes from losing a job is losing healthcare.
Yes.
So that if we're going to have this sort of revolution or evolution or devolution, maybe it's a devolution, that's probably the best word, the devolution that will come from automating so many jobs. It's like, how do we just help people feel safe? Because I think that when you don't feel safe in the world, it's hard to show up. It's hard to show up as your full self. It's hard to show up and be kind to other people. So that might be it. Although I think it's time for some, I wrote about this a little bit a few years ago. I think it's time for some new amendments to the Constitution.
What would those be? What would the new amendments?
I think get rid of the Electoral College. I think that there is an age limit for serving in government, both in Congress and as president.
Yep.
There's an age bar that you have to hit in order to run. So there should be a point. There should basically be some sort of formula that is looking at generations and how many people are in a generation and how much distance can there be between generations, because it is completely unfair for younger generations, for people, it's a 1 or 2 generations above is one thing. 3 generations.
It's like an assisted living facility up in Congress at this point.
Right. and there's, it's interesting. I was reminded of this, or maybe I just learned it, actually, not even reminded, but I just learned it probably from a meme on Instagram. It's a little embarrassing. That's where I get most of my information now these days. But in Japan, the elder class is so revered, and that there is still a role for them in the workplace, that it's like these older bosses who have now retired, they will still come to work and they will be a resource, a fountain of information when it's needed. So I don't think we have to put people out to pasture, but I just think we have to be more realistic about how what we're doing today impacts these younger generations. And that's where I think that's where some of the vulnerability has come from too, of younger people who are voting, who think they're voting in their own interests, and they're not. Right. They're not. This is not creating a world that is friendlier for the younger generations.
Yes. I mean, I'm thinking especially about kind of the manosphere and trad wife culture, and people, voting for something that's going to prevent them from being able to vote later. But and do you think thinking about multi-generational power, it brings me back to this idea of power. And when people won't let go, I almost feel like I can see the inner 4-year-old in the 80-year-old who's up at night, tweeting about wiping civilizations off the planet. I'm like,
who's that, Sarah?
When I'm thinking about, I'm like, I'll be nonpartisan with this comment. I mean, when you think about people who can't let go of power, often,
that is something that I think happens on both sides of the aisle.
Of course, 100%. 100%.
So I think that is, I think we've, it's interesting. I was thinking about, like Gen X, we've sort of gotten screwed in that we got leapfrogged. Where's our Gen X president? We haven't had a Gen X president. And
we not gonna get one.
Probably won't.
I think the matriarchy and the Gen X president are held up in the same traffic. I don't know that we're going to see them soon. But what do you think about this is, of course, both. I appreciate the reminder that this is if you look at the Epstein files, I mean, I was supposed to interview Deepak Chopra, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, all right. And sadly, when I look at the guruization of people, if you will, and men a lot of the time, especially these older men, there is that power dynamic that impacted you so early and impacts women who aren't famous and didn't have the experience you had, but can still point in their lives to there's this dominant culture. They get to do whatever they want. Locker room culture, boys will be boys culture. What do you see any shift? I know I just talked about the manosphere and like young men, doing the things, but do you see a shift toward, I don't know, something more hopeful in Gen Z babies and, maybe even alphas?
Well, I think maybe the fact that these younger generations are coming into a world where we are having conversations about trauma, and almost everybody is in therapy. I mean, I don't know about middle America, so I'm not really sure. But I do think that when you look at the rise of a whole bunch of these companies that now offer online help, like they would not be thriving if they were just serving California and New York. So there is this culture and this slice of I'm thinking about men, but this slice of younger men who want a trad wife, who are very opposed to women having bodily autonomy. There is that slice, and they have gotten louder. They are louder.
They're better funded. They're better funded.
They're better funded. But there are a lot of younger men, I think, who are recognizing trauma they've experienced.
Yes.
And are working on it. They are in therapy. They see even just the shift. I mean, I look at my brother's Gen X, and he's only 4.5 years younger, but like his views on women and equality and those things are better and different from some men our age, you know, who are also Gen X. And I think these younger generations, it is very much. There is a softness there.
Not to make this episode my own personal Tinder, but if you are one of the Gen X or elder millennial gentlemen Monica is talking about, and you've been doing your therapy, you're welcome to shoot your shot. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, Monica actually opens up about the B word that so many women struggle with: boundaries. We are back with my friend Monica Lewinsky, and you are not going to believe this take she has on a possible solution to America's polarization problem. What do you think about, I mean, you predicted it, the cyberbullying, or that we were calling it that. Now it's just life, right?
Right.
Do you see how in the, I don't know, like the last 10, 15 years, it's gone from like you stepping back into the spotlight as this powerful voice? Like, I love your writing. Like, you know, I'm grateful that I get
Sarah.
I love you as a creative person and a thinker. And from what you talked about to where we are now, I mean,
I don't know. I'm trying to be hopeful.
Listen, I think part of how we can help people, like I hear this on Reclaiming, I hear this in other spaces. We don't have to sugarcoat any of this shit. Like, it's okay that it's both hopeful and hard to, you know.
Right. Because I certainly, I don't want to gaslight anybody. Nope. You know, it is hard, but there are the moments, like, it is all energy. It is all resonance, and we can be in charge of our own resonance. And we can do the things, like the small things. I am finding myself like, I have a lunch today, and it's like, okay, remember to make enough time so that I'm walking to lunch. So I'm actually fucking moving my body today, you know, that's because I've been sitting on Zooms all morning. Right. But it's like moving your body a little bit, noticing the flowers, noticing the hummingbirds are out now. You know, it's those tiny moments. Light a candle that you love. Like, they're so tiny. Take a bath. Baths are a huge, huge part of my like resetting and my reclaiming. You know, so I don't know. I think those are the ways we have to try to take care of ourselves so that we can help try to take care of our community. The power is complicated, and maybe some of what we're going to have to learn in this period is holding on to our own power. And what is that? How do we define that? What does that really look like? Where do we have more agency in our lives than we think we do?
What does that look like for you? Because I'm like, you know what I mean? How do you, yes, there are small ways. Where's your no that you're like, oh, I've learned how to be able to say no to this now, or anything like that helps you stand in your power?
You know, I am still working on that. Like, I have a hard time. You know, it's interesting. I don't know how to pronounce her name correctly, so I'm probably saying it wrong, but Nedra Tawwab. So I follow her on Instagram. She's so smart. And she posted something recently about boundaries and about like being really clear of certain things. And I was so anxious reading those. And I said, I was like, oh my God, I'm so, you know, in the comments. And she said, well, maybe it was something about like, I'm not used to being heard, and it was like, oh, I'm not anxious about like just me using these things, it's also being used on me. And I think so boundaries are hard because boundaries and needs go hand in hand. And I've struggled for a long time. I've gotten much better, but about being able to identify for myself, what is a need I have. And it's probably going to sound bonkers to most people listening to this. Me being able to ask for something I need is a moment of bravery for me.
Yes.
And so, because it's really hard, I really struggle with that. So it's a lot. I am one of those people who's like, well, I will just do it myself because I don't want to be disappointed by someone rejecting my ask for help, or my need, or being told my needs are too much, So I think that where I have gotten a lot better is, again, small thing, but it's like a big thing for me, which is I cancel plans. Like
the cancellation is it's a blowout.
And it's a sort of, if I feel like, okay, it's something I really need to, I had something the other week where I had committed to doing something for somebody that I'm championing and I wanted to be there. It was far away. And it was like, I now had something professional come up earlier for the next morning. And so my thing was I'm coming and I have to leave at 8:15, and so I'm getting better and better at that. And that's a way of taking care of myself. And it might sound really stupid to a lot of people. So not to you, which is great. Yeah.
Anybody listening
Who cares?
to this, anybody listening to this doesn't think that's stupid, because that, in a way, to bring it back to this micro is macro. If we have boundaries are honesty. It's right. We grew up people pleasing. That's our generation. It was the culture. Say yes when you mean no. All of a sudden, we get to say no when we mean no, which is telling the truth. And America seems to not be capable of setting the boundary of telling the truth. We're $39 trillion in debt. That's a lie.
Yeah.
You're lying to yourself. Right. So in a way, it couldn't be less stupid, Monica. It's like,
it just, I do often, like, I wonder about secession. I wonder at times of just that thing of that. Sometimes you think about if we as a country, if the two parties went into couples therapy, I think the therapist would be saying, maybe you guys shouldn't be together. I don't know. I don't want to think that, because that's right. That's like a narrative. Patriotism, like there's so many things that we value in our own country. There's a lot to complain about, but there's a lot that is here that has birthed incredible things, incredible creativity, incredible innovation, so, and this has been the seed for that. But there's a point where you just think, I don't want to be telling people who have really different views, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, because nobody wants to hear they're wrong. It just is like, I don't want that. I don't want to live in a place that women don't have a right to make decisions about our bodies. I don't want to live in a place where minorities or trans people don't feel safe.
Right.
Or valued as human beings.
Right.
And so that's sometimes what I wonder about. Like, it's just, have we grown too far apart? I don't know. I don't know the answer. Right. Probably going to get in a lot of trouble for saying that, but
I think I don't think you can get in trouble for saying it, because you're saying the quiet part out loud that people need to hear. We're pretending. We're like going to brunch and acting like we're not a couple in crisis, to put it in the way you framed it. And I think no one can fault you for telling the truth. Like, right.
I am a Democrat, but I have in some ways I'm a centrist Democrat. In some ways I'm a libertarian. And for a long time now, I think we've had fracture, and I've been a proponent of the idea of like a mixed ticket. I am open to that because I don't know how we fix this otherwise. For a long time, I wanted Warren Buffett. I was like, Warren Buffett, you come and be president for 4 years. That's it. Like, just say, I'm going to come in, I'm going to shape you all up. And like, I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm doing on so many levels.
Yep.
You know, have you ever heard anybody say anything unkind about Warren Buffett?
Never.
No.
But
Right.
can I tell you, instead, we got The Apprentice. We got The Apprentice version of that idea because people agree that like we need somebody smart and who knows what to do. We just kind of got hoodwinked by something you've talked about, which is the commodification of like that boys will be boys culture. It's more clickbait. I mean, a nice guy like Warren Buffett is not going to get you, you know, the clickbait that, you know, is paying for everything. It's the rage farming. The rage farming makes the money.
Right. And that's sort of, you know, I mean, we've seen this American brand of politics infiltrate other countries. You know, we all watched it, sort of the rise of the celebrity politician with charisma, you know, started with Reagan. We saw it again then with Clinton, then Tony Blair. Like it's now been exported. We saw our political machine operatives going to other countries to help run elections.
Yes.
And using what was happening here. And so
we spread a kind of political pandemic, if you will, that I think we're seeing now. Can I tell you something I've never told you and I've never mentioned this publicly? Okay. I was at an event and Tony Blair grabbed me around the waist in this crazy way.
Wow.
And for a moment, I thought of you. I was like, this is so fucking weird and awkward. And I'm in this space with this person. And, you know, and honestly, same thing with Mr. Clinton. Like, I just remember thinking, any woman in this position, this is totally untenable. And I only experienced it for, 5 minutes. And so I guess I feel like I could talk to you for 5 days straight.
I know.
And I love what you bring personally, the way that you have turned. I heard an expression once that we spin our pain into gold, and you have just turned, I mean, your life is an incredible testament to how we show up and tell the truth. So
thank you. And that's, it's sort of what I hope with reclaiming, like it's been a very conscious decision for the podcast to not be prescriptive. There's a lot of people like prescriptive podcasts are very popular. And it's really important to me that people find what they need in the conversations, because I think I'm a big believer that reclaiming is a really big topic. Like we are all reclaiming every day in big ways and small ways. And I think we see it. We will see. Will we reclaim democracy? I don't know. I hope so. I hope so
too. And this couldn't be the timing. I mean, this is the 250th anniversary of this experiment. And so I love that you and I are, walking the same path for the same amount of time and watching what's next. And we get to flourish even in the midst of what feels like, such a fraught, almost impossible time. So, yeah. Oh, Monica, I love you.
I know. Okay, let's please make this happen in person.
I should just get everybody and we'll have aggregate 10.
I know. Maybe we'll do maybe you could have a special America Who Hurt You Zoom.
Oh my God, that's a brilliant idea.
With our little group. So
I love this. I'm counting you in, and then we'll fill everybody in.
Yeah.
Oh, you're the best. All right. See you soon.
Bye, Sarah. See you soon.